Hi, I'm Adam Pritchard, Assistant Curator of Paleontology for the Virginia Museum of Natural History, and I'm back with another tale of ancient life. In the world today, there are about 30 species of what we call crocodylomorphs living on the planet. These include alligators, crocodiles, and the long-snouted gharials. And they vary a lot in terms of the shapes of their skulls and snouts. Some have very wide, flat snouts, others have long, slender snouts. Some, as adults, only reach about 5 feet in length, others greater than 20 feet. Huge variety in the skull and the body size. See some of the salient features right here on this skull of a modern American alligator. Definitely counts as having the wide, rounded snout among modern crocs. And this skeleton of a juvenile American alligator illustrates some of the other features that we see in modern crocs, other than the skull. The long, flattened body, the sort of sprawled out posture, perfect for that semi-aquatic ambush predator lifestyle that is typical of crocs and allows them to catch food from insects to fish to big game like wildebeests and deer. But fossil discoveries from the ancient past show us very clearly that not all crocodylomorphs had this single typical lifestyle that we see in the modern animals. There were many different lifestyles. Between the time when the dinosaurs first walked the earth and the fall of the great meteor, there was an age undreamed of. And unto this, the crocodylomorphs, destined to wear a coat of bony armor upon a scaly brow. It is I, and the other paleontologists who study their incredible history, who can tell thee of their saga. Let me tell you of the days of Mesozoic adventure. Apologies to Conan the Barbarian for borrowing that intro. Our story begins in the early 1990s when a group of scientists formed the Majunga Basin Project, a massive effort to sort of excavate and catalog the fossil diversity from the Cretaceous period of the island of Madagascar. The Majunga Basin Project is a collaborative effort between a series of American universities and the Université d'Antananarivo and Malagasy scientists from the country of Madagascar. And one of the goals is to eventually build a facility that will house a lot of the Madagascar fossils in Antananarivo, the capital of Madagascar. Off the coast of Eastern Africa, Madagascar has been isolated from all of the other land masses of the world for about 90 million years. It's a long time to be in isolation. And today, Madagascar has a unique ecosystem, most famously for having lemurs. I swear, every time I bring up Madagascar, the first thing that comes up are those cartoon lemurs from the Madagascar movies. The Majunga Basin Project really wanted to assess just how far back the strangeness of the Madagascar ecosystem went. In looking in the Cretaceous rocks of Madagascar, they didn't actually find the ancestors of lemurs, but they found an environment that was still unique, filled with unique dinosaurs, mammals, snakes, amphibians, and at least 5 different species of crocodylomorphs. And the strangest crocodylomorph of all discovered by the Majunga Basin Project was an animal named Simosuchus, a nearly perfectly preserved 70-million-year-old skull, and much of the front portion of the skeleton showed a crocodylomorph unlike anything ever discovered. Its skull was boxy, almost square-shaped. It had a mouth full of multi-pointed teeth that honestly looked more like those of a modern-day iguana, an herbivorous lizard, than any crocodile species ever discovered living or extinct. Simosuchus was about the size of a small dog. Although its body was sprawled out like a modern-day crocodile's, it had a very short, stumpy chest area. Its armor plates were sort of square-shaped and encircled the entirety of the animal's body. And future discoveries revealed it got even weirder. Simosuchus combined all of this with a very short, stubby tail. This was an animal that looked nothing like the semi-aquatic predators that we still see with us today. However, it still had anatomical features that linked it uniquely to the crocodylomorph lineage. The back of the skull was consolidated in a very specific way. It had a prominent bony palate and the housing for the brain, all uniquely croc-like. The build of the armor plates, the way the bones of the chest fitted together, the attachments for muscles evident on each bone. All of these fine anatomical details were shared with other crocodylomorphs, fossil and living. I must admit a personal connection I have with Simosuchus and the other crocs of the Majunga Basin Project. When I was a graduate student at Stony Brook University, before I really had any clue what I was doing, I was tasked by Dr. David Krause, a professor there and one of the leaders of the Majunga Basin Project, to help catalog the fossils that came out of the ground from Madagascar. And it's with his help and that of former graduate student and now Curator of Paleontology at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, Joe Sertich, and fossil preparator Joseph Gronke, that I really kind of trained my eyes of how to look at fossil bones and make identifications. And Simosuchus was a part of that because its skull and skeleton were in the room adjacent to the one where I did the lion's share of the cataloging. I still remember occasionally picking up the skull just to take a look at it, although it's such a perfect specimen. It's barely distorted in any way. It's not missing any chunks, that it's always frightening to pick it up. But it was an amazing animal, and I got to see its skeleton in person on a regular basis. The evidence we have really strongly supports the idea that Simosuchus was an herbivore, a plant eater. Its body honestly more closely resembles burrowing animals than it does the semi-aquatic ambush predators that form modern croc diversity. Some of the crocs that it lived alongside in ancient Madagascar were actually long-legged predators running around on all fours, probable competitors for the carnivorous dinosaurs that existed at that time. Others were more similar to modern crocs. There were multiple species that were these semi-aquatic ambush predators. Now, once the meteor hits at the end of the Mesozoic era and wipes out most of the dinosaurs, we lose a lot of this incredible croc diversity. Weirdos like the herbivorous Simosuchus and a bunch of other strange ones across the southern continents of the world die out at the end of the Cretaceous period. We do get some of those land-dwelling predators that persist well into the age of mammals, but most of croc diversity after the extinction of the dinosaurs is restricted to these aquatic ambush predator type animals with low-slung bodies and long flat snouts. But during the Mesozoic, Simosuchus is just one of the stories of the variety of ancient crocodylomorphs that we had during that time. There were other crazies like sea-going crocodiles with paddle-like limbs, beaked, long-legged running crocodiles, cat-sized crocs with molar teeth, things that look like molars in the back of their jaws, long-snouted crocs with pancake flat snouts. It was insane, the variety that we had in these animals that is just not represented anymore by the things that are still with us. And what's important to remember about crocodylomorphs is we identify these animals not based on the broad similarities of being flat-snouted, semi-aquatic ambush predators. That's not how we define croc in the world of paleontology. It's all about ancestry. All of this incredible variety descended from common ancestor populations that existed long ago during the Triassic period, over 200 million years ago. And those early crocodylomorphs did have some of the features we expect, that consolidated back of the skull, the armor plates, things like that. And they passed these on to their descendants. But their descendants didn't necessarily retain the same roles in the ecosystem. Some of them moved into the semi-aquatic ambush predator role. Others were land-dwelling predators. Others were, based on Simosuchus, herbivores. And still others seem to be insect eaters. There's just an amazing variety in this ancient lineage. And I wish I could go through all of it, but that would take days. I thought I would highlight the strangest of all the crocodylomorphs, at least in my not at all biased opinion, Simosuchus, and the incredible discoveries that come out of the island of Madagascar. And to remind everyone why it's important to study the fossil record in the first place. Because the diversity of animals, plants, organisms that we see in the modern world is not necessarily representative of what diversity existed in the past. One thing definitely worth checking out is the Ankizy Fund, a charitable effort founded by Dr. Krause and affiliated with the Majunga Basin Project that helps to build schooling and bring healthcare and dental care to the children of rural Madagascar, near where the fossils of the MVP have been discovered. You can check them out at ankizy.org. Here's an assignment for young scientists at home. Take a look at this skeleton of a modern-day alligator. And think about the features that make it a good predator that lives in the water. Things like that flat snout, the eyes that stick out just above the water, the low-slung body, the long tail so it can swim through the water. Now, what I want you to do is pick any one of those features and change it. Change it so that the crocodile could live in a different kind of environment. Could be just on land, could be in a desert, could be in the ocean, could be in a tree. And describe why you made that change. What about the change that you made makes it possible for an animal like this to change its environment? Because in the ancient past, that's what crocs were doing. By changing small aspects of their bodies, their skeletons, they were able to do all kinds of things that we just don't see in the modern world.